Okay, let's get started. So good morning, everyone. My name is Anu Märkälä. I work for the EOSC Finnish Forum office at CSC, and I'm very happy to see so many of you here and a couple of persons in the waiting room. Let's admit them too. So welcome to our webinar, EOSC Achievements in 2023 and what is coming up in 2024. Now, this type of webinar has already become a tradition that at the start of the year, we take a retrospective to the previous year, summarizing the main achievements and look ahead what is coming up in the ongoing year. Today, I will give the floor to Sara Caravelli, who is the EOSC Finnish Forum coordinator and member of the EOSC Association Board of Directors. At CSC, she works as EOSC program manager and a group manager. And she has a lot of slides, so buckle up. We have many things to go through. In practical terms, if you don't understand something or have some other urgent questions, you can raise your hand in the middle of the presentation and she will clarify. But otherwise, we take other questions at the end. So, Sara, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anu, for the introduction. And indeed, as Anu said, I try to summarize as much as possible in a simple way the EOSC achievements and the plans. But I mean, it wasn't an easy job. And I also invite you, so if you don't understand what I'm talking about, please interrupt me, okay? Because I understand that there is a sort of an EOSC jargon, and if you are not super engaged, maybe you cannot grasp all the aspects. One thing, so the slides will be made available. We're also recording the presentations, so that's going to be available after the webinar. So I start sharing my screen, and I hope you can see that properly.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get started then. So what do we have on the agenda today? So I started with one slide summarizing a bit the main achievements of EOSC for 2023. Then we go into the details of all these achievements by topic. And I organized them more from a governance perspective. So I'm going to tell you what's happening in the EOSC partnership. From the technical implementation, and that's why we are talking about EOSC Federation. From a work program perspective, so there is a dedicated work program for EOSC where maybe there are opportunities for all of us. So I'm gonna say something about that. And then more about the community, the ecosystem and the events, and some other news from the EOSC Association that I thought might be relevant for all of you. And then I'm closing with a couple of slides on what to expect from the EOSC perspective in Finland for 2024. And we have some time at the end for Q&A, I hope, unless I'm going too late with the slides. Okay, let's start from the main achievements in 2023. So in 2023, the discussion on the EOSC governance post-2027 have started. So this might not say or tell you that much for those that are not super engaged in the EOSC environment, but you know that in 2027, there are the new FP10 program will start. And when the new program starts, so there is also discussion about how to allocate the different funds, the different investments, and that's what we are also discussing in the EOSC arena. So what's happening after 2027? Are we going to continue in the same way that we're doing now or not? And I'm going to explain a little bit more there. The monitoring of open science and EOSC activities has continued. There is an EOSC observatory in place, and in-kind contributions from the member of the EOSC Association have been collected. In terms of engagement, around 3,000 individuals in 29 countries have been mobilized via what we call these tripartite events. The seed for the technical implementation of the EOSC Federation has been planted. So there was a procurement last year, and the procurement has been awarded, and we started talking about nodes, and I'm going to say more later on. The EOSC community gave input for the Infra EOSC work program. 7 new projects have been awarded. The EOSC Symposium, the main EOSC annual event, oversubscribed. So this tells us that together with the other events, there is still a lot of interest in EOSC. And the task forces, so this expert group supporting the EOSC Association, have completed their mandate. And I will say more later on. This is really in a nutshell. So now I go in depth into all the topics. Let's start from the partnership. So when I'm talking about the partnership, I'm talking about the work towards anchoring EOSC in the FP10 program, okay? At the moment, EOSC is a co-program partnership. It means that there is a memorandum of understanding between the Commission and the EOSC Association. And in this memorandum of understanding, the purpose is to deliver the EOSC objectives. So why do we need to discuss a new governance? Because the co-program partnership as an instrument of the European Commission have a duration, and this one is ending in 2030. So the question that we need to answer now is that, shall we continue this way or shall we change? The actors that are involved in the decision-making to take this decision are the European Commission, the EOSC steering board representative. So the European Commission is using an expert group with representatives of the member states, and you can see who are our representatives from Finland, and the EOSC Association Board of Directors. So these are the actors that currently are discussing in what we call tripartite meetings, working on designing some scenarios after 2030. What has been achieved last year? So I think that the main result was that there is a sort of an agreement that the current model is not suitable for the future of EOSC. Why? Because at the moment, the EOSC funding is an implementation is only relying on grants. It's not clear, super clear, the mandates of the different parties and the decision-making process as well. So that's why we need to change it. But what do we need to sustain after 2027? So we will have to sustain all the activities related to the federation, the operation of the federation and the expansion, the broader fair activities, and the policies relevant to EOSC. So at the moment, we are working on the clear definition of those tasks, because in order to understand what governance model is more suitable, we need to understand exactly what we are talking about. At the moment, let's say that there are 2 potential governance models that have been identified. So one path could be for EOSC to become a joint undertaking. And those of you that are familiar with the EuroHPC, that's the same model that EuroHPC is adopting. Or another option could be a non-institutionalized model. And to give you an example, could be something similar to GÉANT. So an independent legal entity or association driving and managing the federation. So these are the early results about that discussion. What happens in 2024? As I said, so we need to clearly define the task. We need to identify the best model to fund, operate, and govern the tasks. And we need to take a decision on the most suitable model for EOSC. And why this year? Because this year is the year where we are, the Commission is preparing the FP10 program. That's why the planning needs to happen now. How do we do that? So there will be a series of preparatory meetings, tripartite events with all the actors that I mentioned before. And at national level, we are discussing all of this in the EOSC Finnish Forum Coordinating Committee. We will consult the key national stakeholders in this process. And also we are liaising with the other Nordic countries. So we have regular meetings planned to understand their perspective, the challenges that they see, and so on. So that's about the governance. In the context of the partnership, another important area of activity is the monitoring of open science and EOSC-related activities. So last year, the results of the EOSC Steering Board survey have been published. We now have what we call an EOSC observatory, and I put the link on the slide. And that's how it looks like in that picture, okay? And at national level, we have OKM, Academy, TSV, and CSC. We provide the information for the Finnish contribution. And how do we do that? So we do that in synchronization with the National Monitoring of Open Science. So, and that's why we are not bothering you all, because we found a mechanism, we set up a mechanism together with TSV to make sure that we are leveraging on the information that we are already collecting at national level on open science, and we are just feeding this information into the European Observatory. So that's one stream of monitoring. The second stream of monitoring is more from the EOSC Association. So the EOSC Association is a member-based association. And in the, let's say, in the agreement with the Commission, the members of the EOSC Association are committing to some in-kind contributions of different types. For example, the members are doing work on training and skills, on services, research and innovation, and you see the numbers that have been collected for 2022. So at that time, CSC was the only member of the association in Finland, and that's why we as CSC contributing only to that. What's happening in 2024? This is an annual exercise. So every single year we are feeding new information, both for the national monitoring on EOSC and open science, and both for the association. So we will have another iteration of collection of information this year, and the results of 2023 will be published. From an engagement perspective, so I'm not going to go into the details of this slide, but you see that the EOSC Association and the tripartite collaboration have driven a lot of engagement initiatives in all the different countries. And why this? So it's the time to understand what EOSC will become in the future. So it's fundamental to understand the country perspectives. And that's why the association is investing a lot of effort in this. The plans for 2024 is to continue the engagement at country level. From our perspective, we did not have a national or regional tripartite event last year, but we are considering one in 2024. So we might be doing one for this year. So that closed the part on the partnership, that it's more the governance and the monitoring of open science. Let's go in, let's say, the more practical details. So EOSC is a federation, okay? The federation, how we define that, it's really the hardware, the software, and the protocol components of EOSC. So far, or in the past years, this effort was really led by different EC-funded projects, and I think it was very difficult to understand what was happening, okay? Because there was no coordination among these projects. Last year, all the pieces started coming together, and now there is, let's say, a joint roadmap to deliver this federation. So that's what's going to really change this year, okay? So this year you will see the federation coming up. As I said, so EOSC is a federation, system of system, and this federation enables collaboration. And the main idea is that the users will be able to access additional resources beyond their usual environment. The main purpose of EOSC is to support multidisciplinary research. So that's really the main objective. Clearly, a federation has policies and rules that needs to be defined. And at the moment, we call the different federating item nodes. The terminology nodes comes from the Commission. So there was a procurement last year, and the Commission started call the federated system nodes. And that's why now we are talking about EOSC nodes. And of course, the federation can be expanded. What is a node? That's what we are discussing at the moment. So the discussion started last year. What we have agreed so far is that a node is a legal entity, so it has to have a legal representative, because we need someone accountable for the services, the data, or the resources provided, okay? And a node contains some resources. What do we mean by resources? Maybe a node is exposing to the federation some fair data, or services, or training, okay? It could be other things. The node offers the interfaces that comply with the EOSC interoperability framework. So at the moment, this interoperability framework is under definition. We still don't have the rules and the policies to exactly define who can be a node and who cannot be. Each node controls their own operations and resources. So let's say the operation is not centrally controlled by any European node. For example, if a university, if a research infrastructure decides to become an EOSC node, the university or the research infrastructure, they will be the one owning their operation and making sure that the policies of the federation are met. And also, not all the nodes needs to provide the same resources, okay? And that's, let's say, the complementary aspects of all the nodes. And the nodes maybe, one node might provide data, another node might provide certain services, another node might provide training. So it's really up to the node. As long as the node is compliant with the EOSC Federation rules, it's fine. Examples of potential nodes. So at the moment, it's really open: European, national, regional, institutional, or thematic legal entities. There is a position paper that I invite you all to read. The EOSC Association wrote a position paper summarizing the information that I just mentioned briefly here. So you will have the information on the slides. What are the next steps? Okay, so in order for the federation to be formed and to be established, so the EOSC Association will continue to lead on shaping the definition of the EOSC Federation and the rules and the role of the nodes. So as I said, we still don't have super clear rules on who could be a node, who cannot be a node, and what are the policies for the nodes in the federation. That's a work that the EOSC Association is leading. The ambition for 2024 is to extend and evolve the paper that you have seen on the previous slide, creating what we call an operational handbook. If some of you are familiar with Elixir or any other research infrastructures, so research infrastructures are by definition distributed systems, they have rules of operation. So that's what we want to create for EOSC this year, so that it will be crystal clear what to do and how to do, how to join the federation. EOSC Association will also guide the piloting of the federation for 3 or 4 nodes, whether they are national or thematic, starting in 2024. So in order for the federation to exist, we need some examples of nodes, okay? So while we are defining the characteristics of the nodes, so some examples will be tested and piloted this year. And of course, here I just put a note at national level, so we will continue this discussion, okay? So this is something that could have an impact at national level. So we will try to engage all of you and see and capture your contributions. As I said, so the EOSC Federation is composed of different nodes, okay? And you see that the nodes are happening at national, institutional, European level, okay? One of the first nodes that will be created is what we call the EOSC EU node. That's the result of the procurement action of the European Commission. So a very important concept to understand is that the EOSC European node, it's not a master node. It's an example, what we call a reference node. So this implementation of this European node will be done at the level of the European Commission to provide an example for other nodes at national, regional, institutional level, for them to create also different nodes. I put here some information on the European node. As I said, so it's the scope of the procurement is really to operationalize the first recognized EOSC node at the European level. This node is the node owned by the Commission, will offer two types of services, what we call the core services, that are the ones to, let's say, enable the federation. Some examples are single sign-on, catalogs, knowledge graph, accounting, help desk, and also because it will offer also what we call horizontal services. What is that? The rationale of the European Commission was, okay, if we provide or if we build a node that it's only enabled the federation, this node will be in practice empty. So nobody, I mean, there will be no resources available in this node. So the European Commission will populate this node with some, or is what, as they are called, horizontal services. In particular, compute containers, data transfer services, notebooks, and so on. And the results of this will be an example, a blueprint of implementation of an EOSC node that other organizations can replicate in order to populate and expand the federation. Some of the characteristics and features that I wanted to highlight for this European node, it's that the node will be for all the research users of EduGain and citizen scientists using EU login and eIDAS. So the authorization part will be, and authentication part will be really important. The node will be operational 24/7 hours per day. The Commission is envisioning some interaction with existing initiatives. I don't know if you are familiar with the data space environments. The data space environment are building a middleware, and the idea is that this European node will be also interoperable with the middleware created by the data spaces. And also some EuroHPC resources may be offered through this European node. For now, this European node is owned by the European Commission because they are the one that have procured the services. The future ownership is under discussion. So it's not granted that this node in the future will be owned by the Commission. Maybe the member states want to invest in this EOSC node or maybe not. So that's the situation for the next 3 years. I added one slide to clarify what is currently being procured by the Commission, okay? So the procurement had 3 lots. One lot is really the EOSC core platform. So what I mentioned before, all the services to enable the federation. And you have a list there. And you see also, I put here, who are the contractors for this. So these are the organizations that will be delivering these services for the European Commission. And for this one is Athena Research Center. The lot 2 and lot 3 are the horizontal services. So resources that are populating the node. And for lot 2, we have services like managed container services, managed compute, virtual machines, data transfer, and the contractor is the Poznań Supercomputer Center, PSNC. Lot 3 is more about file transfer, file synchronization and sharing services, notebooks services, and again, the main contractor is PSNC. So what does this mean in the European landscape? It means that here you have the timeline of this European node, and you see that there is a sort of, let's say, launch for testing in the summer. but then the production, the services will be in production in October 2024. So in October 2024, we will have this European node operational, and hopefully close to this European node operational, we will have also some pilots of other EOSC nodes. And this will be, let's say, the seed to start building the EOSC Federation. This is a massive change compared to the past, okay? Because finally, there will be something really concrete that organization and researcher can test. And finally, everyone can really test whether this is worth it or not. And maybe it needs to be adjusted. So that's really the purpose of this year. And that's why this year is really important. Okay, this was my last slide on the federation. I wanted to say a couple of words on the EOSC work program. So as you know, there is a dedicated funding stream for EOSC. And now there are calls in a very short deadline. So the 12th of March is the deadline for the infra EOSC calls. And I just put here to see the type of projects that are funding under EOSC. You see that there are some more thematic projects, like the first one that is really application of fair and open data principle for the mission adaptation to climate change. Or there are others more at the level of supporting transported and defining transport repositories like the 103, long-term data preservation, and also the 105 is really a call to enhance and develop new services for the federation. So this is what's cooking now for 2024. For 2025, there will be a new work program only for 1 year. So probably around March next year, there will be another deadline for new infra EOSC calls. And I just put in this slide the recommendation and the input that the EOSC community gave to the Commission. So this doesn't mean that the work program will be exactly like that, but I think this will can be useful for you to see what are the topics on the table. Let's now go to the EOSC ecosystem. So by EOSC ecosystem, I mean what's happening a bit in the community with the engagement of the key stakeholders, and clearly one of the key actors for EOSC are the projects at the moment. So 7 new projects will be starting this year in 2024. I put the information on the slides where you have the total amounts of funding for the projects, the call that they answer to, the name of the projects, so you can recognize them in the ecosystem, and the coordinator. And I also mapped the Finnish contribution there. So you see that the Finnish organizations are active in at least 4 projects. So this is very good, I think, from our perspective. The EOSC Association is doing a lot of activities to try to coordinate a bit, let's say, the collaboration among these projects. And there was a major event now in January called Winter School, where around 100 individuals participated from the project. And the purpose, as I said before, is to try to reduce the duplication of effort among the different projects, because maybe by talking to each other, they understand that maybe someone else is implementing something useful for them, and also to try to instill this common roadmap, because it's really important that the projects are working all in the same direction. I added here in the ecosystem another slide that is more related to the collaboration with the data spaces. So EOSC is more and more recognized as the data space for research and innovation. Okay, as you know, there are different vertical data spaces focusing on a precise sector. EOSC is horizontal because indeed in all the data spaces there is a component related to research and innovation. Even if they are heavily driven by industry, this component is there. So EOSC has a big mission in that context. context. And that's why the EOSC Association has established a collaboration last year with the Data Space Support Center, which is the entity coordinating the, let's say, the overall development of the data spaces. And we are now working on a joint roadmap in 2024. And we are also trying to engage the funders in this discussion so that we all work towards a shared vision to really implement the European data strategy. I move now a couple of information about events. As I mentioned before, so in 2023, there were a couple of key events. One of those was the EOSC Symposium. So there was really, a huge participation from the community last year in Madrid. And last year, because there was the Swedish presidency, there were also loads of relevant events in the area, also linked to the research infrastructure in Sweden, but also in other countries. So it was really a good year from the perspective of community engagement. As you probably know, the EOSC Symposium is an annual event. So this year, the symposium is gonna be in Berlin from 21st to 23rd of October. And this year will be under the patronage of the Federal Ministry of Education and Research in Germany. And will be, let's say, organized in cooperation with NFDI. NFDI is the National Data Infrastructure in Germany, and ZBW. So as you see, it's like a couple of days in total events. And I just wanted to flag with you that there is an opportunity to submit a proposal for sessions. So if you are interested in showcase your results or maybe discuss your activities or the work that you're doing with the EOSC community, you have a chance to submit a session, an abstract for a session. The deadline is the 18th of March. Let's say the only eligibility condition is that try to avoid, let's say, one session entirely focused on one project. Because as you have seen, the EOSC ecosystem is so broad that we cannot give space to all the projects at the same level in the symposium. And that's why we're trying to encourage the community to work more on topics that maybe are relevant for multiple stakeholders. I move now to the news of the EOSC Association. So this year, 2024, the association is gonna work on the new strategic research and innovation agenda. This is, let's say, the document that drives a bit the implementation and the strategy of EOSC. There is a version 1 and 1.2 available, but this year is the time to revise. And why? Because in that document, at that time when it was first published, some gaps and priorities have been identified. Of course, in the last years, some of the challenges have been addressed, but maybe new priorities have arisen. And for example, I can tell you that from the early discussion, AI and fair data, so how fair data can boost AI, it's one of the topics that, for example, will be part of this SRIA 2.0. So keep an eye on that. More from the board of directors. So last year there were elections of, as you know, every year there are elections of directors. Last year, Suzanne de Michel from CNRS, Maria Luisa Lavitrano from the University of Milano Bicocca, and Klaus Stockteman from ZBW, they were finishing their mandates. So they ran for another mandate and they were re-elected. As you probably know, also there was bad news from the board. So we had the premature passing of one of the directors, Sarah Jones. That was a very, let's say, recognized member in the community. So now what's happening in 2024 is that there are three directors ending their mandates. And of course, there is also an open vacancy. And in particular, to be noticed is that Bob Jones from CERN and Wilhelm Wittmann from Sweden, they cannot apply to another mandate. So it means that we will have new directors coming on board for sure in the board. From a member perspective, so the EOSC Association is growing. At the moment, there are around 250 members and observers. I just want to tell you that last year we had a new member from Finland. So University of Eastern Finland joined the EOSC Association as a member. The representatives were Ari Muhonen and Tomi Rosti from University of Eastern Finland. And of course, they're also on board now in the EOSC Finnish Forum Coordinated Committee. The task forces, so the EOSC Association has these instruments to engage experts that are supporting the board in defining the future strategy of the association. And the 13 task forces were launched 2 years ago. And now these task forces are ending their mandates. And what I wanted to tell you is that in March, there will be an announcement of new task forces. So this is really a powerful instrument for experts to contribute to EOSC and get on board. Task forces are also open to non-members. So, and that's why I wanted to flag this with you all. So if you have a certain area of expertise that you think you can contribute and you want to contribute, that's a very good opportunity. So a call for members will be open. We will also share this news through the Finnish Forum channel so that you will know what's happening. One thing that I wanted to flag, because this was accepted in the approved in the previous General Assembly of the Association, there will be a new task force focusing on health. And why? Because there are quite a lot of EOSC Association members that are somehow very engaged in the health area, either through the research infrastructure, for example, Elixir, Eurobioimaging, Instruct, and so on. And also because the health data space is advancing quite a lot. So there is a lot of interest from the EOSC community in this area, and especially on how to connect the two topics. So we cannot have EOSC working in silo on the secondary use of data, and then the health data space going in a different direction. That's why we feel that this is really important. You see on the slide a very high level general focus of the task force. When the call for members is opening, there will be also more detailed description of the objectives of the task force. But this is something that I think it's a really good opportunity, especially if you're expert in or working in that area. The other instruments that the association has, let's say, for engagement and consultation are working groups that are only for the members. And at the moment, I just wanted to tell you that the EOSC Association, the board, we have regular interactions with the mandated organizations, the ETFRI, research infrastructures that are part of the EOSC Association, the funders, and pan-European infrastructure. We are also discussing now a working group with representatives of university alliances, because we really believe that universities are really the core for the success of EOSC. And we are fully aware that at the moment, the value proposition for universities is still a bit weak. So that's why we really want to establish a strong dialogue and understand that we can better support universities and what is the role and the contribution that for sure is there from universities. Okay, so this was the last slide about, let's say, the EOSC updates. I just had a couple of slides from our perspective, in the sense, what are we expecting in terms of activities for this year in Finland? So from the EOSC partnership, as I said, so Finland will contribute to the definition of the future EOSC governance. The EOSC steering board members are engaged, and also the Finnish Forum Coordinating Committee is contributing to the discussion. We will engage key national stakeholders when it comes to take decision or maybe get feedback from the community on potential scenarios. And as I said, the dialogue with the Nordic will be key to support the formulation of a shared Nordic position. We will also continue the EOSC monitoring activities. And as I said before, this will be done in synchronization with the Open Science national survey. When it comes to the EOSC Federation, so we will use the Finnish Forum to inform national stakeholders and also to engage you in the discussion. And maybe, why not, we might explore some pilots at national level. So this is something to be considered for later. Once we have more clear ideas of what these pilots are about, maybe some of your organization want to consider to piloting something with the federation. As I said before, soon the work program 2025 will be published, and maybe there will be some opportunities for all of you in the future calls. From the EOSC ecosystem, as I said, Finland is active in many EOSC-related projects. Maybe we might organize a webinar in the fall to discover how Finland contributes to the European efforts. And in terms of upcoming events, I'm sure that the list is not complete, but I just wanted to flag a couple of events in the planning. So there is a project working on maybe fair aspects called Fair Impacts that is organizing National Roadshow. We are planning one for Finland, most likely in May. So you will hear more to the Finnish Forum channel about that. We will continue the support for the Finnish community to DRDA plenaries in the spring and in the fall. There is the symposium, which I invite you all to consider if you are engaged in EOSC, and why not, we might be organizing Nordic tripartite events, still to be confirmed. And this was my last slide, which leaves us with some time for questions. Maybe I stop sharing. So, okay. Any